Alright everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel. This one is week 2 of trying to predict the correct scores in the championship. Comment below, see if you can beat me and Steve. Probably be easy. Right, we're going to kick things straight off with Coventry versus Middlesbrough. Both teams did really well last season, finishing 4th and 5th respectively, and they did miss out to Luton on the Premier League. Let's start off with Coventry. Coventry, they've still kept all the hammer, which is an outstanding player last season. They have left the leading top goal scorer going Guterres. Can they replace him? They've recruited well. They've brought in Ellis Sims. I think they paid £8 million for him. They've brought in Joel. I'm not going to try and pronounce his second name, from Swansea. Wright, Thomas, and also Binks. In the league though, it hasn't gone quite to plan. Listen, they did get beat 2-1 off Leicester, but Leicester are pipped to win the league, and they also got beat in the cup 2-1 off AFC Wimbledon. Right, so we're moving on to Middlesbrough, done outstanding, finishing 4th with Michael Carrick in his first season at Borough. Listen, Ryan Giles, they haven't got him on a second loan, and also Cameron Archer has left. Aston Villa, though, are looking to move him on, either a loan or permanent, and my opinion, I think he probably will end up back at Borough. In the league though, they beat Huddersfield in the cup, 10 men Huddersfield, but in the league they did get beat 1-0 off Millwall. With all that being said, I've gone for a 2-0 Coventry win. Now we're moving on to Cardiff versus QPR. Cardiff have done quite well at the start of this season. They've beat Colchester 3-2 in the cup, but they got an absolute amazing result against Leeds, and they probably should have won that game off because they went 2-0 up. Brought in Aaron Ramsey, who apparently now has been linked to Burnley. They do have an inexperienced manager in the league though. Right, moving on to QPR, Ainsworth. Listen, QPR would do themselves a favour if they did sack Ainsworth now rather than prolonging the inevitable. They got absolutely smashed 4-0 off Watford. They've brought in Begovic from Everton on a free, Jack Colback as well for a free, and Cook from Bournemouth. Cardiff have brought 7 players in, and QPR have let 11 players gone. In the league, Cardiff finished 21st and QPR finished 20th. With all that being said, in my league predictions, I was a bit harsh, I'm not going to lie, on Cardiff, so I'm going to give Cardiff a little bit of redemption, 2-1 win. Right, so now we're moving on to Birmingham versus Leeds. Birmingham finished 17th last season. Obviously, Leeds got relegated from the Premier League. We'll start off with Birmingham. They've let a few players go. They've let Troy Deeney go. Chong, I thought, was outstanding for them last season. And also Job Bellingham. In my league predictions, I was to and thrown between them and QPR. And I totally forgot about Ainsworth. Looking back now, I wish I did change my opinion on Birmingham to get relegated. I should have put QPR there, but nonetheless, I had them there. I'm going to probably change it in anyways. Brought in some good players there, Buchanan and Roberts from Leeds, and also Dembele from Bournemouth. So far this season, they've beat Cheltenham 2-0 in the cup, and they also drew with Swansea 1-1. So moving on to Leeds, Leeds have let a few players go, Rodrigo being one of them. They have brought some good players in. Had to do $8 million from Chelsea, Byram and Darlow as a goalkeeper. Looking how it got relegated, I can say this one still gone in Leeds' favour, and I've went for a 2-1 Leeds win. Right, so now we're moving on to Huddersfield versus Leicester. I'll start off with Leicester. Leicester have let quite a few players go, probably the better of the players in the team. Tielemans has gone to Aston Villa. You've got Harvey Barnes went to the Mags. Madison's gone to Spurs. They've let a lot of quality go, but they have got a lot of money through the door as well. I think 90+ million, including the parachute payments. But they have recruited well, and they brought in an experienced player in the league, very young, was at Sunderland as well. And that's Callum Doyle. They've brought in Connor Cody as well, and Harry Winks and Hemerson. Right, moving on to Huddersfield. Warnock done absolutely outstanding for them last season. He got them to finish 18th when it did look like they were going to get relegated at one point. But this season, it hasn't been. They haven't started the season well, and they've lost 3-2 to Middlesbrough in the cup. But more worryingly, newly promoted, they got beat 3-1 off Plymouth Argyle. They brought in Tom Edwards from Stoke. With Warnock, I still think they'll be alright this season. They'll stay up. Leicester, I've backed them to win the league. I've gone 3-1 Leicester in this game. Right, so we're moving on to Hull versus newly promoted Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, I think they've recruited well this season. They've brought in Reece James, very experienced player, Ashley Fletcher, and also Diaby. In the league, they just beat Stockport in the EFL Cup, and also they did lose on the opening game, the first game of the season, 2-1 to Southampton at home. But look, I still think they might have a bit of momentum. The newly promoted clubs are coming into the league with momentum. Plymouth obviously getting a win, Ipswich getting a win, and I know they did get beat, but it was of probably a better opponent in Southampton. But I still think Sheffield Wednesday will be alright this season. So moving on to Hull City, they finished 15th in the league and in the cup. They did get beaten in both games, 2-1 off Doncaster in the cup, 2-1 off Norwich. They have brought in a very good striker, though, in my opinion, in Delap and Connolly from Brighton on a permanent. This game's going to be a very even game, I think, and I've gone for Hull City 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Right, so now we're moving on to Ipswich versus Stoke. Ipswich, they've enjoyed a good opening 2 games of the season, winning the both games. They've beat in the cup Bristol Rovers and they've beat Sunderland. They've brought in some very good players in Hurst, also Camera and Hutchison. That have let quite a few players go, Keogh being one of them. 11 in total. So then Stoke, Alex Neil, listen, he had a rough time at the beginning of the season with Stoke, and then he started to put some good results together. If he gets backed in the window, I think obviously he's a very good manager, and he will do alright for Stoke. They've brought a few players in, Rose, Stevenson, Johnson, Ben Pearson. They've won both the games as well. They beat West Brom in the cup, and they absolutely smashed Rotherham 4-1. This game I've gone for, obviously with the momentum of Ipswich, the good managerial experience with Alex Neil, 2-2 draw. Right, so now we're moving on to Southampton v Norwich. Southampton come down, and obviously Norwich finished 13th last season. Southampton, the reason I put them at 6th position this season is because the calibre of player they've let go, and potentially players to go. Lever's obviously on his way to Liverpool. That's not done obviously, but they've got to meet their valuation of him. And Ward-Prowse the same. The players that have let go is Livramento, Mohamed Salsu, Walcott and Diallo. Right, so moving on to Norwich, they've let Ballymamba go, which I think it's a big mistake. I think he's a really good player and he scored for Plymouth Argyle. They've let the diver Max Aarons go, and also they've let Timu Pukki go to the MLS. But they've brought in Fawcett and Duffy, and also Ashley Barnes. I think he's an experienced player further up the pitch. They have got Sargent, who are highly rated. He's a very good striker, and they did win on the opening game 2-1 against Hull. With all that being said, the players that's still at Southampton, the way they move the ball, I've gone for Southampton 3, Norwich 0. So now we're moving on to Watford versus Plymouth. Watford, I've got mixed thoughts regarding Watford because the players that they've let go and the players that they've brought in, but on the pitch, they seem to be digging alright. I know they did lose in the EFL Cup, but they did absolutely smash QPR 4-0. The players they've let go though, Saw, Pedro, Cabecel, Kamara, Cleverley, Ashley Fletcher. So moving on to Plymouth, they brought in Whittaker and Ballymamba, and I think with the momentum, they'll do well this season. I can't see them staying up. They obviously won the first game of the season 3-1, and they won in the league as the cup. But with all that being said, I've gone for a Watford 1, Plymouth Argyle 1. Now we're moving on to Preston versus Sunderland. Preston, they fizzled out the back end of last season, drawn 1, losing 4 in the last 5, and they missed out on the playoffs by 6 points. They've brought some experienced players in, Watmore from Wigan and also Will Keane from Wigan. They have let Diaby go. They've brought in a few other players and they've let a few other players go out as well. Preston this season though, they got beat in the cup off Salford City 3-2 on penalties, but they did get a late equaliser against Bristol City, drawing 1-1. Moving on to Sunderland. Sunderland, where do I start? We've got literally one inexperienced, very young striker, and it's clear and evident to see that we need him. There's rumours that we're losing our 3 experienced players in Danny Bart, Pritchard and Gooch, which I think would be absolute criminal to let Danny Bart go, considering he was our player of the season last season. In this game though, I've gone for a Sunderland 1-0 win. Right, now we're moving on to Rotherham versus Blackburn. Blackburn, I thought they'd done well last season. They finished 7th. They just missed out on the top 6 by goal difference. But this season they've lost Bradley Dack and they've lost Brenton Diaz, which Brenton Diaz was a very good player. He went off to the Liga. In the league though, they've done well. They've beat Walsall 4-3 and they've also beat West Bromwich Albion, who a lot of people picked to do well this season. Rotherham finished 19th. They're a bit of a yo-yo club. They stopped that really last season by finishing 19th. They have lost Connor Washington this season. They did win Morecambe 2-1 in the cup, but they did get beat, absolutely smashed off Stoke 4-1. With all that being said, I've gone for Rotherham 1, Blackburn 3. Right, so now we're moving on to Millwall versus Bristol City. In the league, Millwall finished 7th last season, missing out on 7 points on the top 6. They did fizzle out at the back end of the season. Last game, they got absolutely battered 4-0 of newly relegated Reading. But in the league, they beat Barrow away, which was decent. They've brought in Kevin Nesbitt and they've also brought in Byron as well from Fulham. They have let out Scott, De Silva, Moore and Wilson leave the club. Bristol City, they've brought in Hayden Roberts from Brighton. In the last 2 games, they absolutely battered Burton 5-1 in the cup to progress. But, well, I'm saying but, they did draw 1-1 at home, conceding a late equaliser by Preston. With all that being said, I've gone for a close game, but Millwall will nick this one 2-1. So finally, it's West Brom versus Swansea. Swansea last season, they built up a lot of momentum in the last 10 games and they made a push, but I think they made that push too late to get the top 6. The thing is with Swansea, they have let quite a few players go. They've let Joel, Nitcham, Manning, Obafemi, Whittaker. They could lose Pyro. They've brought in Jerry Yates, Ginley, Key and Rushworth. In the league, they drew with Birmingham 1-1. Decent point, first game of the season and all that. And they did progress in the cup, beating Northampton 3-0. So now we're moving on to West Bromwich Albion. A lot of pundits have got West Brom doing well this season. The first 2 games they've lost. They got the beat off Stoke and Blackburn. They've brought in Josh Madger, once of Sunderland. They've let go of Livermore, O'Shea. I see this being another very close game. Obviously, the calibre of players what Swansea have let go, they probably should have kept hold of a few. Obviously, Ryan Manning was outstanding for them last season. If they manage to keep hold of Pyro, I think they will still do well. Obviously, they've recruited well as well. I've gone for a 1-1 draw on this one. Right, so that's me done from now. Come back after this video and comment how miserably poor I done. Apologies to any team if I've been harsh throughout this video. Just my opinion. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. See you in the next one.